I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. I did manage to get the gearbox put back together again. The disassembly of the gearbox totally wiped off the chip. The chip had to be discarded. It is no longer functioning. And then I switched to a different camera, thinking that that was the problem. Turns out it wasn't the problem. Problem was it was cold out here and the batteries were running out faster than I thought they were. So the assembly of the gearbox, I got the initial test fit, but I didn't get putting the bolts back together again. When you put this back together again, you put this side in place, and then you slip the shaft in and line it up with the worm gear. The worm gear has two bushings, one on the top and one on the bottom. There's a flat on each one of those bushings. That flat goes towards the front of the gearbox. That keeps the bushing from spinning. When you have those two in place, you can wiggle it in past until it lines up with the teeth on the bull gear. Then you can slide this back together again. Once you got that done, you can start the screws. I started just one here, and one down there. That way I could draw it together slowly and make sure everything was going to fit. I didn't want to jam this thing back together again with a lot of bolts just pulling it out of position. So I got that done. We're okay. Then I went ahead and tightened all the bolts. The gearbox is reassembled and ready to put the blades back on. I need to do that in order to have something for the rototiller to sit on while I work on the engine. Before I can do that though, there's one bolt. The nut goes in there. This bolt goes through a hole in the back. You can see it from this angle. See a little light down there. This bolt goes in there and holds this clip. And this clip is what keeps this sandbox, the weight, that's what holds that in place. I had to loosen the sandbox because when I took the 4 bolts out that hold the gearbox on, 3 of them dropped inside the housing. I didn't think anything about it. They places where they could go and I could get them out with a magnet, I thought. They slid in underneath this sandbox. So if you're pulling the gearbox off, you have to make sure and pull the bolts out so that they can't get up underneath this weight. Otherwise you have to disassemble this clip, which is a major pain in the butt to get out, and then it's an even worse problem to get back in again, because once you put it in, unless you have the motor off the gearbox, which I did not do, I didn't want to take that motor off the gearbox, I didn't know how it disassembled, and I didn't want to risk having it break something trying to take it apart. So push comes to shove, the best thing to do if you're going to work on the gearbox, pull the motor. Get that out of there. You'll be able to reach in there, work on the gearbox, taking it off the base, and you have to take it off the base so that you can split the 2 halves And it's not an easy thing. But I wanted to check the bowl gear. I did check the bowl gear. The bowl gear is in good shape. All the teeth are fine. There was plenty of grease in the gearbox. The worm gear was in good shape. The bowl gear was in good shape. I don't think this was used that much. I think it was used a little bit and then put in the shed and left. Now, in order to get this clip back down in there, I used a magnet. I would recommend not doing it this way, just simply because it is very difficult to get things in where you want them. It's a long reach down in there, and it is very difficult to get all the things lined up. And once again, if that bolt comes out and falls into the underneath the weight, then you're stuck. Now, I have practiced putting this bolt in for a good hour last night. And then I found that the nut was stripped. So it was a very disappointing evening. Now, I haven't been successful doing this, but I think I'm going to be able to put it in using a universal joint and a extension, because I can turn that bolt, and I just need to get the nut started on it. And I'll be able to draw it up in. Well, it appears that I have it in the right place. You guys can't see this, and I'm sorry that I can't get it so you can. Like I said, you're much better off taking the motor off. And I might end up doing that anyways, for other reasons. Back in there is that clip and the bolt that I'm trying to tighten up. I had it tight, but I didn't have the clip in the right place. I'm going to see if I can get that clip, go up and engage the notch where it's supposed to go. There it did. Did you hear that click? Now the clip is in place. It's where it needs to be. I just have to tighten that bolt up. Once I have the bolt tightened up, which God willing will be momentarily, I'll be able to put the tines on. There! Tine B, which is, the B is stamped up here on the side of it. This one is mounted on there. It's a D-shaped hole going on a D-shaped shaft. There we go. 2 tines face in and 2 tines face out. Then there's a felt washer that goes in between them. Then this one goes in with the mount towards the inside. Now why is that? If you look at the tines and the direction of the rotation of them, they rotate this way. So this sloped edge is the one doing the slicing into the dirt. You want to have the sloped edge because it starts with a small area, and then once it's in the dirt it gets into the full area. Just makes it easier cut for the tine. Now since I spent all the time and effort getting these cleaned up, I'm going to put some ultralight 336 on it, which is a water displacement oil. I'm about out of pressure in this can. '65 Ford has a way to fix that, and I will do that at another time. Right now I'm going to go down and get another can that's warm and sprays better. Put some 336 on there. Every time my mother-in-law used a shovel, she coated it with oil when she put it back in the shed. Her shovels lasted a great many years until her son-in-law managed to break the handles on them, and then that was back before I was doing the rebuilding tools. That was back in the 80s, and I just tossed them and got new ones. If I had any sense, I would have said, oh, it probably would be better to put handles on these forged tools rather than buying the stamped steel replacements, which don't last anywhere near as long. Okay. That will prevent rust on those. The throttle cable runs down this tube, around through here, comes up and connects to the throttle plate. Okay, let's take the cover off of the carburetor and see if we can see what's going on with that throttle linkage. This one has a rather nice filter. It is a 9015900001. Most of them that I see in the videos have a little foam filter that goes around there, and it's not anywhere near as porous as this one. This one has a lot more surface area because of the folded paper element. So this is a much nicer one. This tiller was built in 2007. So it might have a different set of standards. Choke off, choke on. Well, that throttle only travels just a tiny bit. It's not like it goes full open, full closed. The linkages are right here. And that throttle only goes just down to that stop point. That's pretty much it. Huh. That car's packed full of dirt. This isn't. That little plate got a lot of dirt on it. I don't know if somebody took that filter out and ran it without it and then replaced it or not, but that's not how it's supposed to be. Those are two of the longest carburetor mount screws I've ever seen. They got to be 3 inches long. And the darn things thread all the way in through the plate, through the carburetor, and into the block. Once I got them out, I found out that they don't have to thread all the way through. You can just push them. And I only really had to crank them out about 10 turns. But I spent all that time just trying to get the darn things out of the throttle plate. Carburetor's all cleaned up. Oddest looking thing I've ever seen. It's got two throats. A large one and a small one. Both of them come through the other side. The carburetor goes on that direction. I've never seen one with two ports in the side of the block before. I don't know if that one is a suction line or anything else, but it's the oddest looking thing I've ever seen. That's all it opens. But I guess that is the way it's supposed to work, because there's a fixed block over here that prevents the throttle from opening any further. If I took this block off, I could open it up quite a ways, but it might make it go too fast to be a rototiller. So I'm not going to make any changes on this until I have a better understanding of it running. If it won't reach max RPM and do a good job of rototilling, then I might have to do something about changing that out. But I think in the meantime, I'm going to let that go. Do you see it? Yeah, I doubt you noticed. I didn't notice right off, but the throttle is on the wrong end of the carburetor. Yeah, it fits upside down just as well as it does right side up. Slow and steady wins the race. Snug this up tight, but not too tight. I don't want to strip out that thread. Now I'll take a pair of needle nose pliers and tie the fuel line up. Looks like we're good to go. Choke works. Throttle works. Wires are out of the way. Looks like everything's ready to go. I think we're ready to try starting it. But before I do that, I want to pull the spark plug . That's a tiny little spark plug. But it looks like it's been burning good. See how the electrode is a nice brown color? Not much oil on the inner electrode. The outside's running a little cooler, so it's got some more black oily stuff on it. But I'm not seeing any concern on that. Yep, good one. always start your threads by hand and make sure you go in at least 3 turns. You can put a helicoil in these things. Done it before. Not because I'd stripped it out, but because it got stripped out. Easiest way to get something free is have somebody who doesn't know what they're doing work on it. Because they'll wreck it within the first hour. And snug up the spark plug. No more than snug it. You don't want to crack that porcelain on the spark plug. That will make everybody unhappy real quick. Working on this Ryobi Rototiller that my son got. He moved into a new house and this was parked in the back shed. Packed full of weeds and roots wrapped around the tines, something fierce. It didn't have any fuel in it. Made me wonder why it didn't have any fuel in it. Maybe it's set long enough for the fuel to evaporate out. I don't know. But it does have spark, and it does draw, and it's got good compression. So I checked the bull gear on it first, because everybody told me the bull gears tear out on these. Bull gear was fine. Real pain in the butt to get out, so I could get a look at it. But once I got it out, got a look at it, put it back together again, seems to be working just great. So then I went after the carburetor, made sure the carburetor was correct. Everything I see on the carburetor makes me believe it's working. There's a couple of odd things, like it only opens just a little bit, but, you know, we're going to see what happens. Now I'm going to set it on the floor, turn off the heater, open the door, put some gasoline in it, and then see if it'll fire. Who knows? I might have a rototiller running here. Last fall I said, it'd be nice to have a rototiller, and Ryan said, well, I've got one. It's in the barn, but it doesn't run. I said, it will when I'm done with it. So now let's see. Did I do it, or did I not? Well, put some gas in the fuel tank. Then prime it 7 pumps. Close the choke. And give it 5 pulls. Then open the choke to half and pull till it starts. Well, 17 and nothing shaking yet. runs, but it doesn't turn over. Sounds like we might be looking at some clutch problems. Well, I was hoping for testing. Well, I'd say it's working. The sound of it hit something hung up in the clutch. Works!
Are you gonna be ready to have some chili?
Yeah, I got a running rototiller.
Oh, good.
It works, it cuts, it does everything.
Yay.
If you have any suggestions for a new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments. You know I read them all. Thanks for watching. This video is not to be viewed by anyone under the age of 13 in the U.S. or 16 in the European Union, without the express written permission of the parents or legal guardians of the underage person. Such written permission must be on file at the local government entity in charge of enforcing the rules and regulations established by the FTC. Anyone violating these terms is admitting by default that they hold harmless the owners and operators of this channel. Any and all questions should be addressed to your local branch of the FTC.